You are tuning in to the free bonus episodes of Michael Jackson, The Untold Story. We are challenging the media's lucrative portrayal of Michael, stripping away the lies they sold you. Get ready to learn who the real king of pop was.
If I asked you to close your eyes and picture the single most bizarre, uncomfortable moment of the 1990s, what do you see? Because for me, it is not OJ and the Bronco. It's definitely not Macarena. It is one very specific image.
I think I know where you're going with this.
The king of pop and the princess of rock and roll standing on stage at the MTV Video Music Awards.
The kiss.
The kiss. It was 1994. It was awkward. It looked like, I don't know, bad theater. And honestly, for 30 years, that has been the only narrative that matters. It was a sham.
A total sham, a publicity stunt.
Right. It was to clean up Michael's image after the 1993 allegations and maybe, a rebellious act for Elvis's daughter. But it just felt so fake.
It was the marriage that confused the world. But here's the thing about history. Eventually, the noise fades, the NDAs expire, and you get the documents.
And the story changes.
And the story we are looking at today, stripping away all that 90s tabloid gloss, is completely different from the one you remember.
And that is exactly why we are here. We aren't just speculating today. We are looking at the actual relationship between Michael Jackson and Lisa Marie Presley. We're pulling from Lisa Marie's posthumous memoir From Here to the Great Unknown, which was just completed by her daughter, Riley Keough.
And we've got transcripts from the Diane Sawyer and Oprah interviews, auction house records of private letters.
And even legal filings from the Jackson estate from as recently as February 2025. It's still happening.
And what we are finding is that this probably wasn't a PR stunt. It was a tragedy. It was a collision of two people who were raised in what I call gilded cages.
I have to be honest with you, though, I am still firmly in the skeptic camp. You look at the timing, Michael's reputation is tanking, he needs a distraction, and boom, he marries the daughter of the biggest icon in American history.
It looks bad.
It screams strategic alliance.
On the surface, absolutely, it looks like a business deal. But if you look at the timeline provided in these news sources, the story doesn't start in 1994. It starts 20 years earlier.
Wait, you mean they knew each other before the 90s?
Much, much earlier. They met in 1974. Lisa Marie was 6 or 7 years old.
Wow.
Her father, Elvis, was performing at the Sahara Tahoe. Michael was still in the Jackson 5, a child star himself. Elvis had one of his backup singers introduce Lisa to the Jackson 5 because she was a fan.
So the princess meets the child star.
Exactly. And Michael later said he remembered her specifically because she was surrounded by bodyguards. Think about that for a second. Even then, at 6 years old, they were likely the only two people in that room, maybe in the world, who understood what that specific type of isolation felt like.
That is a fair point.
Yeah?
They were both orphans of fame, in a way, even when their parents were alive.
Right, but they go their separate ways. Fast forward almost 20 years to November 1992.
Okay.
Lisa is an adult now. She's married to Danny Keough. She has 2 kids. Michael is at the peak of his fame. They reconnect at a dinner party at the home of the artist Brett Livingstone Strong.
Okay, so this is just before the allegations hit.
Just before. And according to the memoir, the connection was instant. Michael apparently gave her this penetrating look, that's the phrase she used, and whispered something to her.
What do you say?
He said, "You and me, we could get into a lot of trouble. Think about that, girl."
That is a surprisingly bold line for someone who was famously shy.
Well, it worked. They started talking on the phone constantly. And this is where the sham theory starts to crack for me. You have to understand the psychology here. 1993 hits.
Right.
The first wave of child molestation allegations comes out. Michael's world is collapsing. He's canceling tours. He's addicted to painkillers. Everyone is abandoning him.
And Lisa runs toward the fire. See, that's what doesn't make sense. Why would she blow up her marriage and her quiet life for that level of chaos?
Because of the savior complex. She writes about this explicitly. She looked at Michael, this isolated genius surrounded by what she called vampires, the sycophants and yes-men, and she thought, I can save him.
I couldn't save my dad.
But I can save this man.
Precisely. Wow. So she's replaying the trauma with Elvis, trying to get a different ending.
It wasn't about publicity for her. It was a rescue mission. And Michael leaned into that. He proposed to her over the telephone in 1993 while she was still technically married.
Over the phone?
Over the phone. Later, he did it formally in the library at Neverland with a 10-carat diamond, but the emotional deal was sealed over those late-night phone calls where he was crying out for help.
So the marriage happens. May 26, 1994. Dominican Republic. A secret ceremony that lasted all of, what, 15 minutes?
And the world goes crazy.
Right. But let's address the elephant in the room, the physical relationship. Because the tabloids were ruthless about this. The running joke for years was that they probably never even touched, that he was asexual, or it was all for show.
The memoir just puts that to rest, and in a way that is honestly shocking.
How so?
Lisa Marie reviews that Michael Jackson told her he was a virgin at age 35.
Wait, hold on. The biggest pop star on the planet. The man who had the world at his feet.
That is what he told her. He said he'd kissed Tatum O'Neal and Brooke Shields and that Madonna had tried to hook up with him, but he'd never gone all the way. Lisa wrote that she was terrified she would make the wrong move and break him.
If that is true, that is incredibly vulnerable. You do not tell someone you are a 35-year-old virgin if you were just hiring them for a photo op.
Yeah.
That is deep insecurity.
It changes the dynamic entirely. She talks about the difference between the king of pop and the man she called Mimi.
Mimi?
That was her son Ben's nickname for him. She said she fell in love with him because in private, he was just normal. He cursed like a sailor. He was funny. He didn't use that high-pitched falsetto voice at home.
Oh, yeah.
She famously said, I fell in love with him because he was just fucking normal.
It's just so hard to imagine Michael Jackson cursing.
Right, but that's the point. She saw the guy underneath the glove. She was the one place he didn't have to perform.
Until the cameras turned on.
No.
And that brings us right back to the kiss. Because if they had this real private intimacy, why did the public stuff look so fake?
Because Michael couldn't turn the showman off. Lisa hated that VMA moment. She wrote that she felt manipulated.
How?
Michael told the crowd nobody thought this would last and then planted that kiss on her. But Lisa says his grip on her hand was so tight it was turning blue. She felt like a prop.
So the private relationship was real, but he was using it publicly.
Yeah.
That is a toxic combination.
It was exhausting for her. She felt like part of the machinery. But the real breaker wasn't the publicity. It was two very specific things: children and drugs.
Okay, let's talk about the kids first. Because Michael famously wanted a family. That was his whole thing.
He was obsessed with it. He wanted to create the childhood he never had, and he pressured Lisa immediately to get pregnant.
But Lisa already had 2 kids from her previous marriage.
Right. She had Riley and Ben.
Yeah.
And she was looking at Michael's life, the chaos, the allegations, the sort of emotional immaturity, and she realized, I do not want to get into a custody battle with this man.
Smart.
She hit the brakes. She wanted to wait until things calmed down.
Which, in hindsight, was incredibly responsible. She was being the adult in the room.
She was being pragmatic, but Michael didn't take... Well, he gave her an ultimatum. And this is brutal.
What was it?
He told her, my friend Debbie Rowe said she will get pregnant and have my baby. If you won't do it, then she will.
Ouch.
Nah.
That is not a romantic ultimatum. That is transactional. Give me a womb or I will find another one.
It creates a massive rift. And then you add the drugs. In December 1995, Michael collapsed on stage during a rehearsal for an HBO special.
I remember that.
Lisa rushed to the hospital, and that was the moment.
The moment she realized she couldn't save him.
She realized the extent of the problem. She saw that his doctors were enabling him, that the vampires were controlling everything. She tried to intervene, tried to get him help, but he pushed her away.
And she had her own history with this stuff.
Exactly. She wrote that she had to choose between her own sanity and sobriety or, drowning with him.
So she filed for divorce in January 1996. Irreconcilable differences.
And usually that is where the biography ends. Divorce finalized, he marries the nurse, she moves on. End of chapter.
Right. But looking at our notes here, this is the part that actually blew my mind. The story didn't end there.
Not even close. And this is the part everyone gets wrong. The news sources show they continued seeing each other on and off for 4 years after the divorce.
4 years. While he was married to Debbie Rowe. Well, he was having kids with her.
Yes. Lisa admits she was obsessed with him. She traveled with him on the history tour to South Africa, to London. They were still sleeping together.
So she was still trying to fix him.
Still trying to save him.
That completely rewrites the Debbie Rowe era. It makes that marriage look like the business arrangement, while Lisa was still the emotional anchor.
Exactly. It was a shadow relationship. And there is this letter that surfaced at an auction house recently. Lisa actually blocked the sale because it was so personal. It was written by Michael to Lisa sometime in that mid-90s period.
What did it say?
It's scrawled on paper, really frantic handwriting. He writes, Lisa, I truly need this rest. I haven't slept literally in 4 days now. I need to be away from phones and business people. I must take care of my health first. I'm crazy for you.
Haven't slept in 4 days.
Wow.
That is chilling.
Yeah.
That is the shadow of the propofol and the insomnia that eventually killed him. He was telling her.
He was, but then look at the sign-off. He signed it. Love turd.
Turd, like
Yeah.
T-U-R-D.
Yes, love turd.
Okay, I have to admit, that's charming.
Yeah.
It is weird, but it is the kind of inside joke real couples have. It doesn't fit the wacko-jocko narrative.
Yeah.
It sounds like two people who just had their own language.
It humanizes them.
Yeah.
But there was a darker bond, too. The Elvis connection. You can't ignore the ghost in the room.
Right.
Michael was fascinated by Elvis, but specifically his death. Lisa told Oprah that Michael would constantly interrogate her about the circumstances of her father's death. Where did it happen? How did it happen?
Oh, that's morbid.
And he told her, vividly, I feel like I'm going to end up the same way.
He knew. He saw the pattern, the isolation, the yes men, the drugs.
He was looking at Lisa Marie, the survivor of one king, and asking her to save him from the same fate. And when she couldn't, when the drugs took over, well, the last time they spoke was in 2005.
This is the indifference conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
They hadn't spoken in a long time. Michael calls her, and he asks her one question. Do you still love me?
And what did she say?
She told him she was indifferent.
That is a word that cuts deep. Hate is passion. Indifference is just nothing.
He cried, and he told her he was afraid someone was going to kill him for his music catalog. 4 years later, he was dead.
And how did she react? Because indifference implies she wouldn't care.
That was the tragedy of it. When he died in 2009, she wrote this blog post saying that all her indifference went straight to hell. She was gutted.
Ew.
She was the last person standing over his casket at the funeral. And she later said, referring to her time with him, I've never been that happy again.
It is a tragedy. Two people who were probably the only ones on Earth who could understand each other, but the baggage was just too heavy.
And the baggage is still being unpacked. You mentioned the 2025 legal filings earlier.
Like, this is brand new information. February 2025, the Jackson estate. What is happening there?
So the executors of Michael's estate filed a request for approval of legal fees. One of the line items is specifically for addressing issues relating to Michael Jackson's former spouse.
Do we know which one?
It doesn't specify, but given the recent memoir and the sensitive details Lisa revealed, it is highly likely related to her or her estate. And here is the kicker.
What?
Paris Jackson, Michael's daughter, is objecting to these fees.
So the daughter Michael had with Debbie Rowe is fighting the estate over costs related to the ex-wife her father was obsessed with.
It is a generational ripple effect. Paris is questioning why these fees are so high and vague. It just shows that when you have legacies this big, the relationships don't end when people die. The complexity lives on in the court documents.
So let's circle back to where we started. The kiss, the sham. Looking at all of this, the love turd letter, the secret 4-year affair, the childhood connection, I think my theory is dead.
I think it has to be. You do not tell someone you are a virgin, cry when they say they are indifferent, and spend years secretly dating your ex-wife for a publicity stunt.
It sounds like they were two lonely people clinging to the only raft in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. They were bonded by isolation. But that same isolation is what killed the relationship. Michael needed a fan, a mother, and a savior. Lisa Marie just wanted a husband who was normal.
And in their world, normal is the one thing money can't buy.
Lisa Marie wrote that Michael was a master manipulator. She used those specific words. But she also said he was the love of her life.
That is the paradox we have to leave on. Can a relationship be calculated and the love of your life at the same time? Maybe in the world of the Jacksons and Presleys, the line between performance and reality just doesn't exist.
Or maybe the performance was the only way they knew how to be real.
That is a lot to process. We're going to leave it there for this deep dive. Thank you for listening, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Take care.